right, number 7, we have to find the solution of an equation. We look at our equation and the first thing I notice is there's a fraction. So I'm going to start by doing that fraction trick. This is my favorite way to deal with fractions in an equation. I'm going to multiply the entire equation by that denominator. If I had more than one fraction, we'd do a common denominator, but we're going to multiply everything by 3. So when we multiply by 3, we do 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 6 divided by 3 is 2, and then the x just comes down. Then we do 3 times a negative 7, which is a negative 21, and a 3 times a negative 2 is negative 6. We're only allowed to kind of multiply by this 3. We're bringing in our own operation here. As long as we do that to every term on both sides of the equation, that's what keeps it balanced. The reason why I like to do that step is because now the equation we have to solve is much easier. There are no fractions. So we're going to start with that minus 21. We're going to add 21 so we can get that to reduce to 0. We'll carry down our 2x equals, and then negative 6 plus 21 is a positive 15. We go back to where x is and we will divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, leaving us with x equals to 15 halves. And we look at our options and we see option B is 15 halves. All right, so number 8, here's our second one similar to that. Again, fractions, I'm going to get rid of the fraction first. I'm going to multiply everything by the denominator or common denominator. It won't always be a 3. Coincidence that we get to work with a 3 again. 3 times 1 is 3, and then we have to divide by that denominator. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and then the x just comes along. Now, I wrote the 1 down. You could just write an x because x and 1x are the same, have the same value. Then we're going to keep distributing. 3 times 3 is a positive 9. Here's our equal sign. And then 3 times 8 is 24. To solve for x, we are going to take care of that addition, the plus 9, by subtracting 9 from both sides. 1x is the same thing as x equals 24 minus 9 is 15. So what's the solution to the equation? X equals 15. All right, number 9. Now we're getting into some equations that have parentheses with a number in front. So that tells me we're going to do some distributing. And I can see kind of multiple terms. So just pay close attention to the order that we work with all of this. This will set you up for success. We're always going to start by distributing. So we have a 2 that's being multiplied by that h minus 7. So we'll do 2 times h, which is 2h. And then every time we multiply, you just want to be very aware of the signs. This is a positive 2 times a negative 7. So we say minus 14. We don't distribute to this term. It's outside of the parentheses, but we will carry down the minus h equals, and then we'll carry down h minus 14. All right, the next thing I want you to notice is that we have several terms over on this side of the equal sign, which means that you have some like terms that you can combine. I can see a 2h minus an h right here. Now, because they are on the same side of the equal sign, we just combine like terms. What is 2h minus h? What a common mistake is, so don't write this down, but a lot of students want to add h to get it over here to this h, and then they end up with 3 h's. What we just did, when you have an equal sign, we just added an h to one side and added another h. So we actually added 2 h's to the same side of our equation. We don't want to do that. We don't want to add in 2 h's because we're not adding in 2 h's to the right side of our equal sign. So I'm going to erase that. Instead, what we want to do is just recognize that we are combining like terms. We have 2 h's and we're subtracting an h, so 2h minus h is just a 1h. Minus 14 equals h minus 14. At this point, you might notice that h minus 14, the left side of our equal sign, equals h minus 14, the right side. The left side is equal to the right side. When that happens, I'll tell you right now, that's going to lead us to infinitely many solutions. However, a lot of you guys will probably keep solving this, which is completely fine. When you have variables on both sides, see these 14s? Please don't do anything with the 14s yet. You will give yourself an equation that's a little bit more confusing to solve. Anytime you have variables on both sides, you want to get your variables to the same side. So this is a positive h. I'm going to subtract h so that I can say that equals 0, but I have to subtract h on the other side of the equation to keep it balanced. And here we have another h minus h. When your variables cancel away on you like this, you don't have an h to solve for. So we're not going to choose a numeric answer because we don't even have an h to solve for. So this is either infinitely many solutions or no solution. What we do is we carry down the numbers that are left in our equation. We have a negative 14. Here's our equal sign, and then a negative 14. Is negative 14 equal to negative 14? If that's true, that means solutions exist. And how many? There's an infinite number of solutions. So infinitely many solutions. When we would say no solution is if this number and this number were not the same. Like if we said negative 14 equals 10, well, that's not true. Negative 14 does not equal 10, and that's when we would say no solution. All right, so here's our follow-up question, very similar to what we just did. But just to talk through it again, we have distributing first, so we will distribute this 2 times h. We'll distribute and pay attention to our signs. It's a 2 times a negative 3, which is negative 6. We'll carry down our minus h equals h minus 6. And the last problem I talked about, we are going to notice we have all these extra terms or more terms than 2. If you have more than 2 terms, you likely have like terms you can combine. We are just going to combine them as is. We have a 2h minus another h. 2h minus h is a 1h. I'll carry down that minus 6 equals, and we have an h minus 6. Again, right here, you might say, oh, the left side is equal to the right side. Infinitely many solutions. You also can get your h's to the same side. Don't do anything with those 6's. We have to get our variables to the same side. H minus h reduces to 0. H minus h is 0. Carry down what numbers you have left. Negative 6 equals negative 6. Does negative 6 equal a negative 6? Sure does, every single time. So what is our solution? This is infinitely many solutions. All right, number 10. What I would like us to notice here is there's no distributing, but I have a variable on the left side of our equation and a variable on the right side. So when you have variables on both sides, you need to get your variables to the same side first. Don't do anything with that negative 15 and negative 12. I know you want to, don't do it. We're going to get our variables to the same side. So here we have a minus 9z, so I can add 9z to both sides. I'm going to add 9z over here. Negative 9z plus 9z is 0. So we have a negative 15 equals negative 12. And over here, negative 9z plus 9z is also 0. So we don't have any z's left in our equation. When you don't have any z's left in your equation, or any variables, you just look at your resulting equation. We have a negative 15 equals negative 12. Does negative 15 equal negative 12? And it does not, so I'm going to put a slash to that equal sign. When that statement, or when that equation is not true, that's what it looks like when you have a no solution. There's not a single value for z that we could plug in and get the left side of this equation to equal the right side. All right, last one on this page, solving an equation, no distributing. I notice variables on both sides of your equation. So we are going to get the variables to the same side. We're not going to touch the -8 and 13 to get the variables to the same side. And honestly, it doesn't ever matter which one you get to the other side. I'm going to take this minus 5z on the right. I'm going to do the opposite, adding 5z. I'm going to add 5z to its like term on the left. Negative 5z plus 5z is 0, so we get to cross that off. And then we notice we have another negative 5z plus 5z. So our variables are gone. When that happens, carry down your numbers. -8 equals 13. Does -8 equal a 13? This will either be an infinitely many solutions or no solution. This is not true. I'm going to put a slash through my equal sign. -8 does not equal 13. So what's the solution of the equation? No solution.